Make It Right, the manufacturing podcast.
Welcome to Make It Right. I'm Janet Eastman. Last week on episode 153, manufacturing executive Lionel Moss shared how he has transformed a number of plants by dissecting the manufacturing company's purpose and aligning that purpose and the individuals to team goals that transform the success of the company. In part two of our conversation, we focus on the power of dialogue. Kevin Snook picks up the conversation.
You've kind of got this business vision, and then you've got a roadmap, like let's say a 3-year roadmap to get there. You've got to focus on this year and then the priorities for this year. But all of the time you're thinking about how do we build the people capability to deliver against that. And then you've got down into the very the tactical side, which is, we have these boards on the line where people can write up the issues that they've got. The managers and the team flow to the work where necessary, where they need additional cross-department support to get things fixed. I think that whole, you've mapped it out very clearly for people to see the way that the operation runs forward and how dependent it is on those people. Now, where you have, I think this year has been a very unique year, and there's been a lot of challenges with COVID and other things. And you mentioned turnover, and I know that in many of the companies I'm working with, they're seeing higher levels of turnover this year. How do you then make sure that onboarding process is smooth? So not only are we attracting the right talent, but as soon as the right talent gets in through the door, we're able to really get them up to an effective level of contribution.
Kevin, that's a very good question. So we in that situation, we've been in that situation for a while now. So it's important to take a step back and pace the demand such that we can actually deliver. So commitment to the customer and being, honest and open to the customer is important to understand, what capacity we have to deliver against. We look at different shifts and we assign, different technologies, certain shifts where we require specific skill. So, and hence we ramp up the capability curve pretty fast. But I will say the one thing that has helped us ahead of this pandemic has been the fact that we set basic standards for every unit of transformation on the line and within our batching processes. So it's important to have those, let's call it work instructions combined with job aids. It's very helpful. So reorganizing some, flowing leadership to work, and really flowing some leadership from one line to a different line, kind of mix up the skills some. So all these are basic tactics and things to do that, I'm sure there are many other ideas out there what folk are doing today, but this is what we're doing. I can assure you, I've seen that our third shift is not the favorite anymore during this time, which one can imagine. And hence we just reorganize which lines we run when. We've also leveraged a lot of temporary employees, which is helpful. And even their standard work, realization of tasks becomes really important. Much more time of leadership presence on the floor. And then we've also implemented an array of audits, basic audits, which is not just a checklist, but it's enabling the organization to have things in place to feel comfortable. We've had, I can assure you, on some units we've got desegregation by like these welding clear curtains, just to make people feel good about it. We've gone into a mode as a business to take 15 minutes start and end of every shift and just invest in sanitization, and people feel comfortable. So a lot of practices in view of retention, and I think we have good results and no issue with people lost for that matter. And we've been really fortunate, I must say.
But yeah, that's great. I know that it has been a challenge, but I like the fact that you're also looking at how can we maybe simplify or rearrange the work processes to make things a little bit more simple so that people can pick it up a little bit faster. And that idea around, ideally, we all want everybody to know what to do and to do the right things at the right time. But there are times when I think it's a little bit more stressed, that we have to allow people, I basically give them permission to take the line down, to do certain things, to make sure that we maintain that stability of run.
Yeah, and Kevin, the other thing is, uh, it's important that we deliver results by shift, by day, by week. But I can tell you, I wouldn't say we took the pressure off deliverables in that manner. But we understand that there was some reduction in throughput. We expect that, and I think it's important not to put that pressure from the get-go. It's not all about give me the number. We want a sustainable number that's consistent, and we want that individual to remain with the business and hopefully make a career out of it, and one day have a really good story to tell at work and at home. So
I'm curious, Lionel, you've used this word deliberate so many times in this conversation, and I think that's a really great word to think about in manufacturing. Well, in all of our lives, you have a deliberate purpose. And I liked what you've said, where you set that goal, that 3-year goal that's out there, and then you tell people this is where we're going. Because I have, just like from crazy TV shows and whatever, you have that idea about manufacturing where people are just doing the same thing over and over again, and it's just like there's nothing else, there's nothing to go for, right? But what you've said now, you're deliberately working towards goals, and everybody knows that goal is there. So every day they come to work, they climb that little step, and they are making an advancement every single day of their career. And I think that's hugely powerful to a worker. How have you seen your employees embrace that process?
It's always been very, very well received, I must say. It takes somewhat longer in some operations. If I think of, my past 3 role or positions I've had, anywhere between 9 and 2 years, up to 2 years, I've seen the change. So as long as 2 years, one would say, why that long? But it just is what it is. It's the mix of the organization, the makeup, the walks of life, the complexity, what brought that business there at the rate at which he did. So there's so much change every business uniquely deals with currently. One have to understand that, not to feel, it's not necessarily obstacles or resistance. People just need to understand and need help to understand, to get there. So I see it, there are folk that instantaneously just want to do something different immediately. And there are others in the organization that's, it's tried this before and heard that before somewhat. That's why it's so important to remain in touch with the organization. And as I walk, for example, the business I'm in now, phenomenal business, growing at double-digit rates. I mean, we're building another plan just from here, and it's really going well, and it is just exciting. And we're providing so much employment, so everyone wins. But one example here is coming in, is looking at that one single value stream that has a significant return on investment, a really good margin, is taking some of these, package some of these capabilities, spending time out there, actually joining up with the teams, demonstrating that it actually can transform the results, and people would be in a completely different place. I mean, I have one of the line leader there, for example, on this one value stream, has been with the business from the start. So, and not too far from retirement, honestly. And here goes the best results, breakthrough results in no time, consistent. It's not going to be sustained, because we piecemeal specifics to demonstrate the building blocks of what's possible. And I mean, the buy-in is almost instantaneous at that moment on. onwards. Now, what I see everywhere, and Kevin may see this too, for some reason, we put so much energy and effort behind it, and then for some reason, the results plateau some, because now you have a larger audience and a larger organization, people are excited, you get a lot of buy-in, there's different, energy behind execution at that moment in time, so you plateau some, but ultimately it reverts, it picks up the trend again, and then honestly, it can grow double digit from there going forward, holding that strategic approach, and daily that makes sense, that transforms not just the product through innovation, the process technology through investment, but the time investment in people and making sure it's a win-win. And that's what I've seen here, in view of people accepting that change and that to get on with it. I mean, just doing a leadership training some months ago, I've had leaders circle back to me and say to me, simple situational leadership training, that was so impactful. I got to express myself to my peers, and we had some breakout sessions, and it was so impactful to my personal life and in business. Just thank you. And honestly, I just want to do so much more. I just, that was just a start of getting leaders ready, how to lead the change going forward, how to be there for the organization day in, day out, and what does it take? And they have to find themselves where they are at. You'll be amazed how many people I interview and people I meet and talk to, and they're trying to go down a career path, and ultimately, I can figure and understand clearly the individual needs to be possibly in some technical path, or possibly in this direction, or they're trying to find where they contribute the most. And sometimes that dialogue and clarification, when we get that granular and open and honest and specific to a candidate as to what we do and what it's all about, it's amazing what results we can get once they fill a position where they feel they can be successful. Mm-hmm. and they know they can be successful, they're confident and they're excited about it. Not everyone we've interviewed for a role end up in exactly that role, which is fortunate. We have so many roles with this new plant we're building. It's possible to, and it's amazing. There's always a movement, and I love job rotation. I think it's an enabler for this specific situation where folk are in one role, and they don't see how they can enhance themselves or improve themselves, and they may have different strengths to bring to the table that may not be all.
It's great when you see that the impact that getting better results has on somebody. You just mentioned that they can accelerate the results, and now they can't do enough. They want to be able to continue contributing, and that's because they can see the direct result of what they're doing every day on the impact that it's having on the business. And I think that connection back to the real business purpose is critical.
It is. And reinforcing that, we've had all employee meetings up until, before the pandemic, and I cannot wait to get back, and it'll be soon enough. We'll start sharing those messages and linkage to the organization. It is so important. Now with managers and extended leadership team, connecting all the time like this is important. And honestly, Kevin, if you gauge the organization, like we're going to another level of setting objectives, meaning we're getting a little bit into gives and gets. You may recall some of that, but having a dialogue as to what should happen between functions. There's just so much dialogue to have. And even one other best practice that I started, which was very helpful to get leaders there pretty fast, was just take the directors or the leaders of every function into a room and talk about what we would like to see more to do to be more effective, just as collectively. And you'd be amazed of the feedback, open feedback and discussion that within minutes evolve within that forum, where there's feedback. And sometimes I'm thinking, okay, this discussion is going to be probably going to get hot in here, maybe, who knows? But it's very, very respectful and very collaborative, because they understand there's one goal now, and we've got to figure things out. But that dialogue, that sort of, those few minutes carry so much weight in view of helping functional leaders to build relationship, to actually ensure you don't have the silo forming over time.
When
Yeah,
you actually when you actually open up a dialogue that way, Lionel, you actually open up an idea factory, don't you? Like all of a sudden you have
Totally.
all of these people who have all of these ideas, and you have no idea what one of those ideas can possibly do for your business until given the opportunity to have those people make those contributions.
Exactly, and they clarify their roles themselves. It's I've seen the engineering director talk to a supply chain director, and on capacity, and there's and ultimately the learning is there's something lacking in our system that would help them both, guide them to actually, come to a really good outcome or decision as to what the work should look like. Whereas if ahead of that, you would have the one function believing something should be different from another function or department, and that opens that dialogue. And then suddenly, to your point, ideas are created and flowing. And so, it's always positive. But most important for me, I see the work relationship development. There's this task and relation thing ongoing, and sometimes we are so high task because of pressure and expectations, which we should actually translate into meaningful work for people. And once they have the right connection peer to peer, that they can actually talk about what should work different for better results, it goes well. It goes a lot better. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
So I just want to be mindful of your time. Kevin, do you have any more questions for Lionel?
Well, one thing that stood out to me, you talked about the results accelerating and then plateauing a little bit, and I've seen that a lot. And to me, it reminds me of, it's like the kitchen drawer analogy. You realize that your kitchen drawer is full of a load of crap, and you need to get it cleared out. And so you have this one day where you're clearing everything out. You're trying to figure out exactly what's supposed to be in there and what's not supposed to be in there, and you just get one of everything. And you've used up so much energy getting it right that then you're so relieved and you step back, and then 2 weeks later it's just got everything thrown back in there again, right? I think the part that people miss out on, and that's why we plateau, is that we don't put the maintenance standards in place. We don't maintain what we've got because we've spent all our energy already, and that glamorous part of improving is there, but the maintaining part gets forgotten. I think that's so critical. In some of the systems, we need to make sure that there's the same level of energy to maintain it where we've got it. And it's okay if it plateaus, but we don't want it to drop off again. And then after a period of time, when we've rolled out to other lines or other areas of the factory, then we can pick it back up.
Kevin, that's right on. Perfectly well put. And then that is where the reward recognition system should support that energy to sustain it, and having that same level of commitment to make sure it is so obvious to me that I've seen it everywhere and work with it, that when I started my current role, I actually announced within the first 6 months, must have been already, that I actually announced, this happens, let's try it, and I circled it, this should not happen, and it's inevitable. So it just says that there's some work to be done to still engineer. So maybe the capability ahead of time wasn't quite there to sustain it. But to your point, that's the capability we need. Folk who can actually, hold it up through that sort of cycle in time.
Yeah.
No, very well put.
So Lionel, usually we ask our guests to offer us a couple of key takeaways before we end our conversation. So do you have a couple of things that you would like to share with manufacturing leaders?
I would just say, continue to identify the right capability for the right results for your true business purpose. If we get this right, and it's a win for the organization as well, that our results or your results will be sustainable. Really that simple.
Okay. Lionel, I really enjoyed talking to you, Kevin. I'm sure you did too. And we really appreciate having you on the show, Lionel.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Janet.
It's our pleasure. That is Lionel Moss. He's a manufacturing executive and he is based in the US. That's our show this week. You can check out our Twitter and LinkedIn feeds that are on our podcast page. Subscribe and share the podcast with your friends and colleagues through iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you're looking for ways to transform your manufacturing business, listen and re-listen to this particular podcast and check out Make It Right, 5 Steps to Align Your Manufacturing Business from the Front Line to the Bottom Line. That's Kevin's book. I'm Janet Eastman. Thanks very much for listening to Make It Right.